Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to episode 4 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. And this episode is all about how to sell more. I'm so excited that you're here. My name is Catherine Eardley and I'm your host as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for creative product businesses dedicated to helping you start, scale and grow profitable product businesses. And you can find out more at resilientretail.com. This week, I wanted to talk about a subject that I'm really passionate about, and that's the product in your product business. So I've spent years of my life debating with designers and buyers about the best product. And one of the key features of all of the businesses that I've worked for has been that they've created great product that they were really, really proud of. I've never worked for, say, off-price retailers or discount retailers. It's always been about creating amazing product for the customers. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about because in a way, why else do it? Why else start a business unless you're in the business of creating fantastic product? And one of the things that I always say is, if you want to know how to sell more in your product business, is create better products. The best sales strategy is a great product strategy, and great product sells itself. I'd like to start off by giving a little shout out to one of the Resilient Retail Club members, Katie from Bibbly Boo Bibs. She recently won a gold award at the Parents Loves Award. And she has a great story about how really good product sells itself. So she makes bibs that are designed to be not super crinkly, but waterproof so that if you have a dribbly baby, as any of you who have had babies will know, when they're really dribbly, it is quite inconvenient. They soak through their outfits, they get rashes on their chests. It's just really stressful, or it adds to the stress of being a parent. And so Katie took it upon herself to design these bibs in such a way that they didn't get soaked through really easily. And one of her first customers actually came about because she was in a shop, she had a baby with her, and somebody was asking her about the bibs, asking her how the baby was staying dry. And so it began. And I think this is just such a great example of how really good product will sell itself. It will sell itself because the customers will become advocates for it. They will pass on recommendations through word of mouth. And word of mouth marketing is one of the most powerful ways for you to sell your products. Nothing will sell your products more than a group of engaged customers who just love them. So whenever you're thinking about your products, whether you're creating them or whether you're curating them, then always think about just what is going to light up my customers. There's a lot of focus on marketing when it comes to product businesses, which of course is really, really important. You have to know how to market yourself, how to sell yourself, but the best marketing in the world won't make up for a mediocre product. So I always think about the Fire Festival. So there's a documentary all about it on Netflix. It's an absolutely amazing documentary. And if you haven't watched it, I would suggest that you pause the podcast, go watch it. But it's a really fascinating look into a festival that was set up on a Caribbean island. And basically it was just a complete disaster. But what I loved about the story was that their marketing was incredible. They had the best social media agencies in the world. They had the best influencers, the most well-known influencers, this coordinated campaign. So it was incredible marketing, but it couldn't make up for the fact that the product itself was an absolute disaster. So all the best marketing in the world won't make up for a mediocre product. So always start first with your product ideas and focusing on how you can make them better. Okay, so how do you go about actually getting great products then? I'm going to run you through a few places for you to start when you're thinking about creating your products. But in all honesty, it's an ongoing cycle. You should always be looking in your business to create or find products that are better than your current bestsellers. That's how you keep moving forward. That's how you keep growing. It's not by resting on your laurels. It's very tempting when you're a product business to get excited when you finally find a product that the customer really resonates with. But the truth is you have to keep moving it forward. Let's talk about some of the ways you can get some great ideas and inspiration on how to make your products better. The first place you need to look to get great products is your customer. Start with your customer and know who they are. You've probably heard this advice hundreds of times about the importance of understanding your customer and knowing who you're selling to. But it's not important just because it helps you with your marketing, although it does definitely help hugely with getting that clarity when it comes to your marketing messaging. It also really helps you when you're creating your products. If you think about it, if you were being asked to buy a gift for somebody, you'd want to know all about that person, the things that they liked, they didn't like, before you would actually choose a gift for them. So it's the same thing when you're creating your products. You need to understand who your customer is so that you can create something that is going to just light them up. And how do you do that? Well, you spend time talking to your customers. You interact with them on social media if you know where they are, the kind of people they follow. You participate in what's called active listening. So you look at what they're commenting about. You look at other brands they might follow, the positive things that they say, if you're seeing any complaints coming through. If you can join, say, a Facebook group for people who may be buying your kind of products, it's really interesting to see the kind of discussions that happen there. You want to understand what they love and what they don't love. And after you've kind of got a sense, you want to do some really in-depth research. Some people say you should talk to 100 ideal customers before you start your business. And whether or not you agree with that, I would definitely say it's one of the places that people don't spend enough time when they're starting out. I would definitely suggest that you really do dig in deep and try and understand your customer before you start. So you want to understand some things like what kind of price points are they willing to pay? What other brands do they buy in your area? What's important to them? What do they love about the products that they're currently buying? And what do they not love about the products that they're currently buying? One of the best ways to do this is by interviewing them. So to do a series of customer interviews where you can ask them questions about what they love, what they don't love. And as a technique which I really love, which is called the 5 whys method. So 5 whys is where you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So let's say you ask somebody, what brand of candles do you like? And they say, oh, I really like Diptyque. And you say, why do you like Diptyque? And they say, well, I really like Diptyque because they have this fragrance that I really love. And then you say, well, why do you love that fragrance? I just love it when I walk into a room and I can smell that smell. And they say, well, why do you love it when you walk into that room? Well, I feel like it's a treat. I feel like it's a treat to have a house that smells nice. And so you kind of keep digging and digging and digging until you understand that what the motivation behind or why they love that brand is because it's about treating themselves, or it's about self-care, or I feel like I'm looking after myself when I smell a lovely candle, or I feel relaxed. So you kind of want to keep digging. So you don't just want to ask somebody, do you like this product or do you like that product? You want to really dig in to understand why people are buying something, because people buy things to solve problems, and solving problems doesn't have to be about world hunger or major issues. It's about that they want to look really stylish. And so they're looking for affordable accessories to help them feel stylish. They want to feel like they're looking after themselves. So they want to have a nice candle, for example. So you've got to understand what's motivating people to buy in your particular product area and why it is that they're motivated to buy before you can start really creating products that are going to do it better, for example, than your competitors. You always want to be thinking about how you can make your customers feel. And there's a wonderful quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So what kind of feeling do you want to evoke in your customers? And when I look back at 20 years in the retail industry, every business that I've worked for has had an out-and-out best-selling product. So it's been a product that has just been outstanding, has driven a large percentage of their sales. And when you look at the products that really drove those sales, there was always a reason for it that was related to how it made the customer feel. So, for example, one business I worked for had a dress that was always the bestseller, and you made the designers want to tear their hair out because they just couldn't find a dress that sold better than this one. And the reason was that it was really flattering. It flattered a whole load of different body types. It was comfortable, so you could feel really dressed up because it looked very smart, but at the same time you felt comfortable because it had some stretch to it. And it was just flattering and made people feel fantastic. So when you make people feel that way, then they're going to buy. And that was the case with this dress. Another example that comes to mind is when I worked for an organic skincare and clothing brand for babies. It had this amazing skincare range, and it was so loved by parents because they got this feeling that they were caring for their child in the most eco-friendly way, and they weren't putting nasty chemicals on their baby's skin. So it really made them feel good about what they were doing for their baby. They were helping them avoiding unpleasant things like nappy rash, but at the same time doing it in a way that made them feel like they were doing the best for their child. So think about how your product can make your customer feel, and you will not go wrong. Another place to look for inspiration for your products is your competitors. Now, I am not talking at all about copying. I'm a huge advocate for originality, and nothing makes me more mad when I see people who've just completely ripped off somebody else's designs. But there's an awful lot that you can learn from the market that you'll be operating in without copying whatsoever. It's smart business sense to have an idea of who your competitors are and to, frankly, keep an eye on them. You want to understand the market that you'll be operating in. After all, you want to understand things like the price points that they use, the types of products that seem to be really popular. And here's a top tip. If any of your competitors do the same product in multiple colors, or they bring it out season after season with just a small variation, that's their bestsellers. It's usually pretty obvious if they have certain shapes or colors or product formats that are really good for them, because they will just milk it. Other things that you can learn from is what people like about your competitors. So read their reviews, read the comments that people leave them on social media. Just understand what's out there. You want your product to be desirable, and one of the ways that you can understand how your product can be desirable is to understand how your customer is reacting to other people's products. So regular competitor shopping. So that means just keeping an eye on who your competitors are and just getting a sense of what products they're bringing out when, what ones seem to be working well for them, what price points seem to be working well for them, and also what their customers are saying. So it's kind of hard to get an idea of what good looks like sometimes until you see what other people are doing in your niche. One of the things that you're really aiming for when you're trying to create great products is this very intangible quality, which is desirability. Desirability means that when your customer sees your product, they have a sharp intake of breath. It's a, I have to have it moment. So when I worked at Coast, Kim and Andrea, who were the design and the buying directors, who incidentally now have their own fabulous business called Vintage Sister, so definitely check them out. They would say this to the teams over and over again. If you don't get that reaction from your customer, it's not going to sell. So think about this. Your customer has their money prized tightly in their hand. Okay, all right. I know nobody has cash anymore, but you get my idea. You have to persuade them to open up their hand and give you the money. And one of the quickest ways for you to do that is to make your products really, really desirable. And as I said, that is a very intangible quality. It looks very different according to the product area that you're in. The best sellers that I saw, the different businesses I worked for, they were different for each one. They looked very different, but it was all, again, back to that desirability and how it made the customer feel. So what else is going to help you create these desirable products? Well, I call this niching your niche is another approach that can really help you. You need to have products that are unique. In fact, the more unique and exciting your products are, the easier it is to sell them, the easier it is to get attention in general. Now, this doesn't have to mean that it's something that people have never seen before. And okay, I gave you the example of Katie who'd made these bibs. She basically invented a new type of bib. So yes, sometimes it's about inventing something that's just better than what's out there already. And sometimes it's about just being really clear about your niche. For example, you need to have some kind of twist or USP, unique selling proposition. You need to understand why somebody would take other people's products off the shelves of their business and put yours on. Whether or not you are aiming to wholesale or not, you need to understand what would make your product so different and unique that somebody would want to stock it over and above somebody else's products. And niching your niche can really help with that. So for example, going back to candles, using candles a lot today, you have candle brands that are zodiac candles, for example, or maybe they are candles that are unisex fragrances or fragrances especially designed to appeal to men. So they are a niche within a niche. If you have a product that is in a niche, like, for example, silver jewelry or candles, then you're going to want to really niche down even more because that's how you stand out. That's how you make yourself unique. The other good news, if you are trying to create a sub-niche and you're thinking, where on earth do I start, is draw on your own experience. So another person who's in the Resilient Retail Club runs a business called Daya Candles, and they are from India. And so the candles are reflecting that story about where they grew up and the way that candles are used in India, for example. So your story can absolutely become part of your product. It could also be about your personal style. It could be about your eye for selecting product. So you yourself are part of what makes your products unique. If you're trying to figure out a way that you can stand out, think about what you're bringing to your business and think about what you can bring to your products to give them that unique story and that unique reason for buying. It can sound quite daunting to think about how you are responsible, as it were, for making your products more unique and how your personality, you as a person, your story, everything about you, how that becomes part of the USP for your products. But one of the ways to help you with that is to make sure that you're always looking for inspiration. Become obsessive about gathering product ideas. Have a special Pinterest board for it. Make sure that you are constantly looking, not just in your niche, but outside your niche to get fresh ideas and new inspiration. If you want to know more about the product development cycle and how to get inspired, I do suggest that you follow Joanne Griffin over at Arnold & Bird, who has a fantastic range of resources all about how to get inspiration as well as to understand more about trends. One of the final ways that you can go about creating great product is by following the test and learn philosophy. Buyer psychology is absolutely fascinating. There are so many elements that go into making up a purchasing decision, it's almost impossible to unpick all of them. You're going to put in a lot of work when you're creating or selecting your products. You're going to be thinking about what your customer really wants and talking to as many of them as possible. You're going to want to be reviewing your competitors, understanding what they're doing and understanding what works for them. You're going to be thinking about your niche and how your story and you as a person, how that is going to affect and make your products unique. But at the end of the day, it's almost impossible for you to know before you start selling a product exactly how it's going to sell. So many elements go into that decision: the pricing of the product, the quality of the materials, the way that you're describing them when you're selling them, the branding that you've got in your business, the relationship that your customer has with you. All of this goes into the purchase decision. And that's why I'm such an advocate for testing and learning. There's a really great statistic that I love, which is that if you don't have any sales history for a product, you have only got about a 50% chance of predicting accurately how it's going to sell. And that's the same whether or not you're brand new at your business or whether you've been doing it for several years. And I have to say that within big retailers, I have seen this time and time again, that about half of the products we get it right and about half of them we would get it wrong. Sometimes we get it wrong because we'd buy a really small quantity of something and it would just be a huge hit. And sometimes we get it wrong because we decide that something was definitely going to be right. It had all of the elements that should have made it a bestseller. And for some reason, the customer just didn't respond to it. So about 50% of the time, we were pretty much right on with our predictions. And then about 50% of the time, it was either much better than we thought it would be, or maybe it didn't perform the way that we wanted it to be. So I've definitely seen that 50-50 split in action. But the interesting fact is that once you've had as little as 2 weeks selling history on a product, you have got an 80% chance of correctly forecasting how it's going to sell. So all of this points to the fact that if you're thinking that your biggest job is going to be, right, I've got to create this perfect assortment and then that's it, it's fixed. Once I launch with it, that's what I'm going to have in my business. And I just need to work out which products are right before I start going. That is definitely not the right approach. Really, your approach should be about creating a test lab, if you like. You want to be trialing new products as often as you can by doing it in such a way that you're not committing a vast amount of stock each time. If you're somebody who's lucky enough to create your own designs, then this is the perfect way for you to grow your business. Keep trying new things, keep putting new things out there, seeing how the customers react. As I said, you always want to try and understand how you can move your products on, how you can make your next range of products better than the range that went before. So you should always be trying to push the boundaries and always be trying to bring in new products. Now, if you are not somebody who creates your own products easily, then you need to think about this in a slightly different way. If it's a brand new category for you, for example, instead of going and having it manufactured somewhere else, can you purchase small quantities in from another business to try and see whether or not your customer's even interested before you overcommit? If it's a new supplier that you're purchasing from, can you just buy small quantities to test it? And if you are, say, for example, starting a clothing brand, before you go and have a production run manufactured in a factory, can you have a single sample or a handful of samples made up by a local seamstress, for example, and see how they sell? See if you've got that customer before you commit. You are really trying as much as possible to test and learn and try and understand from your customer what it is that they love and what they respond to before you make any commitments to your stock. I have to say it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they start product businesses is they jump in with both feet, they purchase a large amount of stock or they have a lot of stock manufactured before they've really got an audience to sell it to. You really want to be building your audience, thinking about the best product you can create and trialing things in a small, low-risk way. And then that is how you learn and that is how you grow. Also think, are there any other ways that you could possibly get information about the kind of products that your customer would like before you start committing to them? For example, could you put polls on social media? Could you do some sort of pre-order? Could you put up a couple of different options and try and understand what people like the most? A word of warning though, people may say that they love something, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating is one of my favorite phrases. And by that, I mean, you'll know if somebody's going to buy something when they buy it. It's very easy for people to say, oh yeah, I love it. It looks great. But then actually when it comes to putting their hand in their pocket and actually paying for something, that is a completely different story. So as far as possible, you want to learn from actual money in the till or money in the virtual till. You want to learn from that as opposed to learning from what people are saying or other indications that they might be giving you. So I hope that's given you some tips and some ideas about how you can create your product. If you take nothing else away from this episode, I just want you to understand that the best way for you to grow your sales in the long term is to create exciting products that your customer loves. So think about what you can do in your business right now to get excited about product development and make it perfect for your customer. If you've enjoyed this episode, then do follow me on Instagram at Future Retail UK and tag me when you're listening. I'd love to see where you are when you're tuning in. Please also rate, review, and subscribe to hear about new episodes as they are released. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretail.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, with a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretail.com.